She said she deleted her dating apps, but I matched with her on a new one. That same night, when Mia and I first met, it felt like one of those rare storybook beginnings people write about online. We matched on Tinder on a random Tuesday night, exchanged a few sarcastic messages about bad dating profiles, and decided to meet for coffee the next day. It was supposed to be casual, no pressure, just two people seeing if there was any spark. But there was. By the end of that first meeting, I already knew I wanted to see her again. Within 2 months, we were exclusive. By 6 months, we were spending more nights together than apart. A year in, she moved into my apartment, and we deleted our dating apps together as some symbolic gesture of commitment. That moment, both of us sitting on my couch, holding up our phones to show the account deleted screens, stuck with me. It felt good, clean, like we were cutting ties with the noise and distractions and choosing each other. Every once in a while, I'd joke, "You better not be swiping behind my back," and she'd roll her eyes and kiss me. Fast forward to about a year and a half into our relationship. One Saturday morning, we were lying in bed, half awake, scrolling through our phones. I glanced over and noticed an icon I didn't recognize on her home screen. It was buried on the third page, small and tucked between other apps, but I'd seen enough App Store screenshots to know what it was. Hinge. "Hey," I said casually, pointing to her phone. "What's that?" She froze for a second, just a flicker of something on her face, then laughed. "Oh my God, that's ancient. I downloaded it before we met, but I never deleted the icon. The account's long gone." She tapped it open to show me. It landed on the login screen. "See? No account. It's just been sitting there." I didn't love the fact that she still had it, but she made a point of holding the icon down, hitting the little X, and deleting it right there in front of me. "Better?" she teased. I smiled and let it go. I wanted to trust her. I really did. A few months later, a new dating app started trending. One of those more authentic ones where you answer prompts instead of writing a full bio. I work in tech, so I tend to keep up with app design trends. One boring Thursday night while Mia was out at a friend's, I decided to download it. Not to actually date. I had no interest in that. But to see what made it different from the others. I used a throwaway email, uploaded a couple of random photos that didn't clearly show my face, and gave myself a fake name. I wasn't looking for anything except a little professional curiosity. I was ready to delete it the next day, but I forgot. A couple of days later, I opened it again just to see if anyone had liked my profile. I scrolled through a few profiles. Strangers, obviously, until I saw one that made my stomach drop. It was Mia. Her hair was pulled back in that loose bun she only wore around the apartment. The same soft beige sweater she'd worn last Sunday when we went grocery shopping. The profile photo wasn't some old selfie. It was recent. The second photo was her laughing with a cocktail in her hand. I remembered that night because I'd taken the picture myself 3 weeks ago at a rooftop bar. Her bio wasn't vague either. She'd answered the prompts with new details. Perfect Sunday, farmer's market, mimosas, and a lazy afternoon in bed. Dating me is like a mix of comfort and chaos, and the one that stung the most. Looking for someone who can keep up with my energy. The worst part? Her relationship status said single. My first reaction was a hot wave of denial. Maybe it wasn't actually her. Maybe someone stole her pictures. But then I noticed little things. The scar on her right wrist from when she cut herself cooking last year. The exact phrasing she always used when describing her weekends. It was her. There was no question. I sat there staring at my phone for what felt like hours. I could have confronted her right away. I could have walked into the living room, shoved my phone in her face, and demanded an explanation. But something in me hesitated. If I confronted her now, she'd just spin it, delete the account, and I'd have no proof beyond my own word. And if she was bold enough to post photos I'd taken, maybe she was talking to people too. That night, I did something I'm still not sure I'm proud of. I swiped right. I made my fake profile more appealing, adding a couple of better-looking but still anonymous photos, answered the prompts in a way I knew she'd like, and waited. The next day, my phone buzzed. "It's a match!" When I saw her profile pop up as a match, my pulse kicked up hard. I stared at the screen for a long minute before opening the chat window. I didn't want to jump in too quickly. I needed to play this carefully. If she suspected anything too soon, I'd lose my chance to find out what she was really doing. I started with something light. Me. Didn't expect to see someone this pretty so close to me. I knew her well enough to know what kind of opener she'd respond to. Simple, confident, with a touch of flattery. She replied within 5 minutes. "Mia. Smooth. You must send that to everyone." I grinned at the screen, though it was bitter. Me. Only the ones worth it. "So what's a Sunday farmer's market girl doing on here?" She bit. She wrote back about how she was trying to meet new people after Things ended with someone a few weeks ago. My jaw tightened. She wasn't just pretending to be single. She was rewriting her whole reality. I asked more questions. She was careful not to give away her last name or where exactly she lived, but her answers were unmistakably hers. She talked about her love for Thai food, the tiny cafe she swore had the best chai in the city, and even mentioned getting into hiking lately, something we'd started doing together this past spring. The next day, she messaged first. Mia. So, mystery man, what's your deal? I kept my fake persona vague. A guy in his early 30s, works somewhere in tech, loves cooking, and is always up for a good cocktail bar. The cooking part was deliberate. She'd told me on our second date that she found it attractive when a guy could cook. The conversation flowed easily. Too easily. She flirted more openly by the third day, tossing in playful emojis and joking about how she might have to see if you can keep up with me in person. Each time I put my phone down, I felt sick. She was investing time into this. This wasn't some old dusty profile she'd forgotten about. She was actively swiping, matching, and chatting while sitting just a few feet away from me on the couch some nights. By the end of the week, she brought up meeting in person. Mia. We should grab a drink sometime. You seem fun. It was both exactly what I'd been waiting for and the last thing I wanted to read. My stomach twisted with a mix of anger and adrenaline. I told her I was free the following Tuesday after work, suggesting a trendy little cafe downtown, one she liked but rarely visited because it was too far for a casual stop. That way, I knew she wouldn't accidentally run into anyone she knew who might ruin the setup. In the meantime, I kept acting normal around her at home. She had no idea that every time she texted her new match, she was texting me. She'd smile at her phone while we were watching Netflix together, and I'd force myself to stay expressionless. The night before our planned date, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake imagining how she'd react when she saw me sitting there instead of the man she thought she was meeting. I didn't know if she'd laugh it off, get angry, or try to walk away without saying a word. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her talk her way out of it without showing her exactly what I knew. Tuesday came. I got there early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I had my phone ready, the chat open, with her messages right there for her to see if she tried to deny it. 15 minutes past our agreed time, she walked in. I could tell from the way her eyes scanned the room that she was looking for her mystery man. When her gaze landed on me, there was a moment, just a fraction of a second, where her face went completely blank. Then she forced a smile and walked over. "Wow," she said, trying to laugh. "Guess you caught me, huh?" I didn't smile back. "Sit down." Mia slid into the seat across from me, still trying to play it cool. Her hands were clasped together on the table. Her nails freshly painted the same soft pink I'd noticed in her profile pictures. She glanced around the cafe as if making sure no one she knew was nearby before looking back at me. "So, this is awkward," she said with a little smirk, like she thought she could charm her way out of it. I didn't take my eyes off her. "Awkward for who?" She exhaled through her nose, leaning back in her chair. "For both of us. I mean, you clearly made a fake profile just to, what? Catch me? Spy on me? That's kind of messed up, don't you think?" I tapped my phone on the table, the screen lighting up with our entire conversation. "What's messed up is you telling me months ago you deleted your dating apps, and then matching with me on a new one. You told me you were single in your profile, Mia." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, it was just for fun. I wasn't actually going to meet anyone." "You were here to meet someone today," I shot back. Her jaw tensed for just a second before she recovered. "Yeah, to meet my boyfriend who's apparently paranoid enough to catfish me." I felt my voice drop, quieter but sharper. "You didn't know it was me. And don't pretend you did. You thought you were meeting some new guy you'd been flirting with for a week. Don't insult me by acting like this was some elaborate joke you were in on." For the first time, she didn't have a quick comeback. She just looked at me, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Mia, you lied," I said, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to. "You didn't delete the apps. You didn't stop looking. And you told strangers you were single while coming home to me every night." She crossed her arms. "You're overreacting. I like the attention, okay? It doesn't mean I don't love you. I just—" She trailed off, then shrugged. "Sometimes I get curious. That's all." I stared at her, trying to find some trace of the girl I thought I knew, the one who swore she was done with all the games when we first got together. But all I saw was someone who was already halfway out the door, emotionally, if not physically. "Curious?" I repeated. "So curious you were setting up dates?" "That's not what it was," she said quickly. "I wasn't going to do anything." "You're twisting this into something it's not." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "You told me you deleted those apps. You promised. And here we are." She sighed dramatically, like I was exhausting her. "So what now?" You're just going to break up with me over some stupid app? I don't know, I admitted, though in my gut I already did. But I know I can't pretend this didn't happen. The rest of the conversation was short and cold. She made a half-hearted attempt to turn it back on me, about how trust goes both ways, and how me creating a fake profile was just as bad, but it was all smoke. I'd seen enough. When we left the cafe, we walked in silence to the car. The drive home felt like an hour, even though it was barely 15 minutes. She scrolled through her phone the whole time, not looking at me once. When we got back to the apartment, she went straight to the bedroom. I stayed in the living room, staring at the wall, replaying every moment from the past week. I thought about how easily she'd slipped into lying to me, how natural it seemed for her to tell a stranger she was single, how quick she was to flirt when she thought she could get away with it. An hour later, she came out, holding her phone. I deleted the account, she said flatly. Happy now? I didn't answer. I just nodded once because I didn't have the energy to argue anymore. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew this wasn't over. For the next couple of days, we existed in a strange limbo. Mia was quieter than usual, but not apologetic. It was like she'd decided the whole thing was my fault and was just waiting for me to get over it. She still went about her routine, working, seeing friends, scrolling on her phone for hours at night, but there was a wall between us now, invisible yet impossible to ignore. I told myself I'd keep my eyes open. I didn't want to spiral into paranoia, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the image of her profile on that app. The ease with which she lied in the chat, the way she crafted an entirely different life, it felt rehearsed. On Friday night, she said she was going out with her friend Nicole. I didn't think much of it at first. Nicole was one of the few friends I actually like, but when I texted Nicole later to ask if Mia was staying over, her response came quickly. Nicole, wait, what? I haven't seen Mia in weeks. I stared at my phone, my stomach knotting up. When I asked Mia the next day how her night was, she gave me a casual, good, and changed the subject. I didn't push, but my mind was racing. That night, when she fell asleep on the couch, I made a decision. I didn't want to snoop, but I needed to know. I unlocked her phone, the passcode hadn't changed, and went straight to her App Store history. My chest tightened as I scrolled. There it was. 4 different dating apps, all downloaded in the past 6 months. Some she must have deleted after short stints. Others were still listed as open. She hadn't just kept one profile. She'd been cycling through them, trying new ones whenever she got bored. Worse, in her messages, there were texts to numbers I didn't recognize. Some were short, flirty exchanges. One read, "Last night was fun, when's round 2?" I put her phone down like it burned me. I couldn't look at her sleeping face without feeling sick. The next morning, I confronted her. "You weren't with Nicole Friday," I said. She looked up from her coffee. "What?" I texted her. "She hasn't seen you in weeks. So where were you?" Her expression shifted instantly. The defensive glare, the crossed arms. "Why are you checking up on me?" "That's not healthy. You've been downloading dating apps, Mia. Multiple ones. I saw your history. I saw your messages." Her eyes narrowed. "You went through my phone? Wow. You know, you've got serious control issues." I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "Control issues? You've been lying to my face for months, meeting up with strangers, and I'm the problem?" She slammed her cup down on the table. "I wasn't doing anything serious. Just talking. Maybe meeting for a drink here and there. It's harmless." "Harmless?" I repeated. "So if I went out with some girl from a dating app, that'd be fine?" "That's different," she snapped. "Why? Because you decided it is?" I was shaking now, anger pulsing in every word. "You promised me you deleted them. You looked me in the eye and promised. And you've been doing this the whole time." She didn't answer right away. For the first time, she looked cornered. Not sorry, but caught without an easy out. Finally, she said, I like knowing I still can. That people still want me. It doesn't mean I don't want you." I stared at her, feeling something inside me give way. "If I'm not enough for you without a dozen strangers validating you, then we're done." Her mouth opened like she was going to argue, but nothing came out. She looked away instead. The rest of the day was silent. She didn't try to apologize. She didn't even try to talk. And that told me everything I needed to know. By Sunday morning, I had made up my mind. I'd spent the night lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every red flag I'd brushed off over the past year. Every time she'd been vague about where she was going. Every sudden burst of attention on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Every moment she'd made me feel like I was overreacting for asking simple questions. She came into the kitchen late, hair messy, wearing one of my hoodies like nothing had happened. She poured herself coffee and sat across from me, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even glance up until I said, "We need to talk." Her eyes flicked to mine, wary but defiant. "About what?" "I'm done, Mia," I said plainly. I can't do this anymore. She blinked, clearly caught off guard by how calm I sounded. You're really going to throw everything away over some stupid apps? I laughed under my breath. This isn't about the apps. It's about the lies. It's about you choosing to entertain strangers instead of respecting the person you claim to love. I told you it was harmless, she insisted, leaning forward. You're blowing this out of proportion. People flirt. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything when you hide it, I said. When you build entire fake stories about being single. When you plan meetings with people you don't tell me about. That's not harmless, Mia. That's cheating. Her voice rose. I never slept with anyone. How am I supposed to believe that? I asked, my own voice starting to crack. You've lied every step of the way. Why would I believe you now? She stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Because I'm telling you the truth now. I stood too, meeting her glare. The truth? The truth is you've been auditioning replacements for months, and I'm not going to stick around until you find one you like better. She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes glossy but not from guilt, from frustration. You're making a mistake, she said finally. I shook my head. The mistake was trusting you after the first time I saw that app on your phone. The mistake was believing you when you said you deleted it. The silence between us was heavy. I could feel my chest tightening, my throat closing up. I loved her. Or at least, I loved the version of her I thought was real. But that version didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. I'll pack my things, I said quietly. She scoffed. Fine. Do what you want. She turned and walked down the hall, slamming the bedroom door. It took me less than an hour to gather my clothes, my laptop, a few personal things. Every trip from the bedroom to the suitcase felt surreal, like I was moving in slow motion. I kept expecting her to come out and stop me, to cry, to beg me to stay. But the door stayed closed. When I wheeled my bag to the front door, I paused. I thought about all the nights we'd spent on that couch, all the little rituals we'd built. Morning coffee together, late-night snacks, dumb inside jokes. It all felt fake now, tainted by the knowledge that she could so easily live a double life right next to me. I opened the door and stepped out without looking back. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I kept my phone on silent. But when I checked it in the morning, there were 3 missed calls and 1 text from her. You'll regret this. I didn't answer. The first week after leaving Mia felt like I was walking around with a constant weight in my chest. I'd wake up and instinctively reach for my phone, half expecting a good morning text from her. I'd go to make coffee and catch myself glancing toward the spot at the counter where she always stood. It's strange how quickly habits turn into ghosts. I didn't tell many people what had happened, just my closest friends. Most of them were supportive, though a few danced around saying, I told you so. Apparently, some of them had always felt she was a little too flirty with other guys when I wasn't around. I wish they'd told me sooner, but I also knew I probably wouldn't have believed them back then. 2 weeks after the breakup, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw her name pop up in the Suggested for You section. I almost kept scrolling, but something in me, maybe morbid curiosity, made me click. Her profile picture had changed. It was a shot of her in a tight black dress, holding a champagne glass, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. I tapped into her profile, and there it was. A photo from just the night before. She was at a rooftop bar, leaning into some guy's shoulder. He had his arm around her waist, his face half turned toward hers. The caption read, "Here's to new beginnings." I stared at it for a long time, not even feeling anger so much as a hollow kind of clarity. It didn't take her long. Maybe she'd been talking to him before we even ended. Maybe he was one of the harmless drinks she'd told me about. Either way, she'd moved on without hesitation. I closed the app and set my phone down. For a moment, I just sat there in silence. I expected to feel jealous, or crushed, or even tempted to call her. But what I felt instead was relief. Pure, unshakable relief. Over the next month, the fog started to lift. I got back into things I'd stopped doing when we were together. Cooking for myself, going to the gym, grabbing drinks with friends without worrying about checking in. The more space I had, the more I realized how much I'd been walking on eggshells around her for the past year. One night, a buddy and I were sitting at a bar when he asked if I was ready to start dating again. I laughed and said maybe someday, but not yet. Then he pulled out his phone, opened that same dating app I'd matched with Mia on, and slid it toward me. Go on, he said with a grin. Make a real profile this time. I hesitated, but then I started filling it out. With my real name, my real pictures, my real life. No games, no fake stories. I wasn't sure if I was ready to meet someone new, but I knew one thing for sure. The next time I committed to someone, it would be with both of us all in, or not at all. And if I ever saw another dating app icon on someone's phone when they swore they'd deleted it, I wouldn't ignore it. Not for a second. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that trust isn't broken in a single moment. It's chipped away slowly, until one day you realize there's nothing left to hold on to. Walking away from Mia was the hardest thing I've ever done. But staying, that would have been worse.